Now we come to the last artist that we cover as the forerunners, Claude Monet. We quoted Ruskin last time that the most trustworthy autobiographies of any great culture was written in its art. To understand the culture, one must also read what happened and what was written. Viewers of the past episodes probably have gathered that throughout this program, we venture a step further. That is, to understand art, one must read what happened and what was written. I do this especially because today's commentators say, let me quote something that was said a couple of days before I recorded this program, the old school civilization style pantheon of great men, and so on and so forth. I'm happy that they still read K. Clark, even if they only watch his video, even if only with disgust. That is obvious to me. For instance, to understand David and the so-called neoclassicism, it is absolutely easy if you understand that he needed to return to the style of Rome in search of a legitimacy of the revolutionary government, of which he was a deputy. It was an effort of political propaganda. Otherwise, without the historical background, it is very hard to figure him out. Ignoring the bigger picture or the background, neither remove it from existence nor reduce one bit of its influence. Undeniably, one of the greatest blossoming of art, as well as culture, took place in the 19th century. Great developments were everywhere. Music, novels, poetry, philosophy, science, technology, medicine, the practice of democracy, independent branches of government, rule of law, the respect to the rights of the common people, the rights to their own properties, and so on, and indeed, above all, the concept of freedom and individuality. Everything was marvelously new. Monet could be said to be the central figure that illustrated such blossoming, besides the pun, as the main figure in what's called impressionism. This painting, called Impression Soleil Levant, or Impression Sunrise, gave the name Impressionism, penned by art critic Louis Leroy, who said that all the paintings were just impressions, nothing else. To be sure, he was making fun of Monet. Monet was actually a native Parisien, but when he was 5, he moved with his family to Le Havre. He and the 26-year-old Millet probably crossed paths there. Of course, I'm not suggesting that they knew each other. Obviously, Le Havre impressed Monet a lot more than Millet. Maybe there is something to be said about the impressibleness of young mind. When Monet was being impressed by the port scenes of Le Havre shown here, Millet was painting portraits to make money and things like this, Diana resting. These two developed in different directions are probably also the result of the fact that Millet was sent to study with a portrait painter in the beginning, and Monet was convinced by Eugène Boudin, a local landscape artist, to explore the natural world. Let's quote Monet. One day, Eugène Boudin said to me, "Appreciate the sea, the light, the blue sky." I took his advice, and together we went on long outings, during which I painted constantly from nature. This was how I come to understand nature and learn to love it passionately. Continue quoting Monet. For me, a landscape does not exist in its own right, since its appearance changes at every moment. But the surrounding atmosphere brings it to life, the air and the light, which vary continually. For me, it is only the surrounding atmosphere which gives subjects their true value. It was to be developed into what was called painting en plein air, or plein air painting, which is to actually paint outdoors instead of making sketches outdoors and paint indoors. Painting outdoors made it possible for Monet to develop color schemes organically. It is a kind of interaction with nature. I should point out that technically, en plein air was made possible by the availability of mass-manufactured oil paint in tubes, as we still use today. So painters didn't have to do all that grinding and mixing, which is not possible en plein air. In our last episode, we mentioned that the Barbizon school was known for its landscape paintings. Monet studied its paintings extensively. Again, regrettably, we're not getting into that today. Monet's father wanted him to go into the family grocery business, but his mother, a trained singer, supported his artistic pursuit. She died when Monet was 17. I find it interesting to look at artists' formative paths. Cézanne and Matisse both actually studied law before switching to painting. Dare I add here, so did I. But at least in my case, it has nothing to do with my mother. In any case, in Paris, Monet tried to make it by emulating his friend Edouard Manet. Since Monet went against his father's wish, he was not doing well financially and got into dire financial trouble when he had a son with his model and girlfriend Camille Donceau, shown here. Incidentally, this painting, which was rushed out to meet the schedule of the Salon of 1866, was selected and won some good reviews. Also important to Monet, it was sold for 800 francs. Here's another picture of Camille. I cannot help but showing it. Stunning, right? Would you marry her? I would. The real financial relief came sometime after Louis-Joachim Gaudibert, a shipowner, commissioned him to paint 3 portraits, 2 of himself and 1 of his wife, in 1867. Let's show Madame Gaudibert here. There are similarities with Woman in Green, do you think? But it is hard for any copy to be as good as the original, right? After marrying Camille in June 1870, they went to Britain to escape the Franco-Prussian War. In London, Monet got to spend time with Turner's paintings in London museums. Also important to him, he got his first dealer, Paul Durand-Ruel. When he moved back to France in 1872, he ultimately settled in the northwest outskirts of Paris, a place called Argenteuil, from where he became a regular member of the Paris artist clan. Soureau wrote a book a few years ago on the Paris art scene about that time. It was really on Picasso and Matisse, but the book makes nice reading and helps understand the Paris environment at that time. I haven't read her book on impressionists. In 1874, these rebels put up the first impressionist exhibition in the studio vacated by Nadar. You know, the guy who took the pictures of Millet and Monet that we've shown? In personal life, Camille was ill with the birth of their second son, Michel, in 1878. She died in 1879 of tuberculosis. To make a long story short, before she died, they went to live with their patron, Ernest and Alice Ushede, and their 6 children. Ernest moved to Belgium after he went bankrupt. Alice took care of their 8 children. Monet and Alice moved in 1883 to Giverny, which is some 70 kilometers further away from Paris, with their children. Monet was looking for a place to settle. According to him, once settled, I hope to produce masterpieces, because I like the countryside very much. Monet will live there for 43 years, with long sojourn to places like Venice and London. Monet and Alice were married in 1892 after Ernest died. Alice died in 1911. 3 years later, in 1914, Monet's eldest son, Zheng, died in the First World War. After that, Blanche, Alice's daughter and Jean's wife, took care of Monet. Struggling with depression and later cataract, after moving to Giverny, Monet focused on capturing the evanescent shifting natural light and perfecting the quick painting style that we're all familiar with today. Financial rewards soon came with that effort. With money, he had 6 gardeners to maintain his gardens, lily pond, and Japanese bridge. To quote Monet himself, "My only merit lies in having painted directly in front of nature, seeking to render my impressions before the most fleeting moments." Today, I'm sure everybody would agree with me that Monet was a smashing success in that. But according to him, and I quote, "Age and chagrin have worn me out. My life has been nothing but a failure, and all that's left for me to do is to destroy my paintings before I disappear." It was said that he destroyed some 500 paintings before he died in 1926. I don't think any critic would dream of doing that. Still, because he had dealers continuously selling his paintings, his wonderful paintings can be seen almost anywhere in the world. Through his paintings, we see the world under a different light, literally. In our next episode, I shall show a few photographs I took earlier this year in Musée Metropolitan Monet in Paris. I'll see you next time.